Okay, hello online students. Welcome to the RLA, or Reasoning Through Language Arts online course. This is going to be the first lesson that we will have together. I will be your teacher for the online Reasoning Through Language Arts course. So, welcome to semester 1. Today, we are going to talk about what topics are covered in the Reasoning Through Language Arts exam. So we're going to talk about what you should know, what you should be studying for the exam, before the exam comes. Alright? We're going to talk about key RLA vocabulary. So vocabulary that, are useful words to know specifically for this exam. Words about the exam. Now, for those of you who are taking this course, you're going to have to learn how to self-study very effectively, right? Because you won't be in a course and there won't be as many opportunities to speak directly with the teacher who's teaching you. And you'll be watching these lessons recorded. It's important that we talk about how you can effectively self-study for the RLA exam. So, let's get started. The RLA exam. The total time for the Reasoning Through Language Arts test is 150 minutes. So this, out of the 4 subjects, out of social studies, math, science, and RLA is the longest of the 4 GED tests. So there are 2 parts to the test, and you will have a 10-minute break in between the 2 parts. Now, the first part, are going to be based on short passages of text. So these texts are going to be either literary or they're going to be technical texts. We'll get into that in a moment. So the first part is going to include a lot of reading and reading comprehension. Now, there are a variety of question types on the RLA exam, including multiple choice, fill in the blank, drop down questions, and drag and drop questions. Now, for this course, there are going to be a lot of small quizzes, and I want to introduce you to every one of these types of questions. So multiple choice, fill in the blank, drop down menus, and drag and drop, all of those. You will be very familiar with these 4 question types by the time you reach the exam, because we are going to practice online quizzes together. Because the GED exam, as you know, is going to be taken in an online testing center. So you'll be taking it on a computer, most likely. Now, the second part of the RLA exam, it's the extended response question. And during this time, you will have 45 minutes to write an essay. Now, in the first semester of the online course, we will focus less on your writing and more on getting your English, your grammar, your reading comprehension, and all of your English background to the level that it needs to be. And then we will continue in the second and third semesters to teach writing and to go more in depth about the essay portion. So, what topics does the RLA exam cover? Well, let's talk about it. Grammar. English grammar is, of course, very important. You're going to have to know the basic functions. You're going to have to know how to form a sentence, about the difference between verbs and adjectives. Now, this is not a grammar test entirely. Grammar is just one portion of it. However, on both the essay and in the first part of the test, there will be some grammar. They will be grading you a bit on grammar, so it's important that your English grammar is very strong. The next one is writing. Now, writing is very similar to grammar. You're going to have to practice it a lot and have good grammar in order to be a good writer. Your vocabulary is also very important. So each week, I will be giving you a list of vocabulary words, and I'll include those that you can study and memorize. It won't be many. Every week, I'll try to include less than 10 words so that you have time to really study in depth, and I'll be very careful about the vocabulary that I select to teach you, so that you're not overwhelmed. And by the end of this course, you should have a pretty good vocabulary. Okay. Next is reading comprehension. Okay. So, understanding the text, what you're going to read. Now, this first semester is what we're going to focus on. A lot of reading comprehension, literary concepts, authors, writing techniques, and things that will help you to just better understand what you're reading in English. You will also need analysis skills. Now, analyzing arguments is a key part of the essay portion of the exam. So, under reading comprehension, it's a similar thing, right? You're going to have to study the art, how to look at an argument and decide, is this strong? Do I believe this? You'll have to analyze fact versus opinion. And we will get more into this in the first and second semester. Now, let's talk about a little bit of RLA test vocabulary. So very important vocabulary that you'll need to know for testing. The first word is passage. Now, a passage is just a section of text, usually multiple paragraphs, right? So it's going to be, likely it can be fiction or nonfiction. It can be a letter. It can be, a passage from a book. It can be many different types, but a passage is just a section of text that you will be required to read, for the exam. Now, there will be two types of passages or texts on the GED. Informational, which is 75% of the exam, and literary, which is 25% of the exam. Now, literary just means, kind of more related to a narrative. So narration and storytelling, there's likely going to be characters. Whereas informational is more something like news stories. It can be instruction manuals, various types of, text that isn't narrative. It's not necessarily telling a story, but it could be narrative, but it doesn't have characters. It's not like a novel. It's not fictional. Okay? So let's look at some examples. Newspapers and news articles. You will definitely be seeing plenty of passages from newspapers, right? And we'll learn about different types of news articles. Some of those include opinion. Some of them do not include opinion and are merely attempting to only state facts. So we will also review the different types of news articles. Letters and emails. Now these are important for more academic writing, is knowing how to write a formal letter or a formal email. So this kind of ties into your writing, but you will also be reading some passages that are letters or emails. Of course, we also have books. Books can be novels, which are fiction, fictional characters in a fake universe that the author thought up in their head. And then we also have non-fiction books, for example, biographies. Now, biographies are just a story of someone's life, so somebody who really lived. And usually they are trying to be very exact to the facts, right? I was born in this year, then I went to this school, then I did this, and it's telling the story of some real person's life. So that's a biography. It was one example of a non-fiction text. You're also, so when you see literary texts, they're usually a bit entertaining, right? And they'll tell a story. So in this class, we will dive into, literary texts, because those also include a lot of figurative language and metaphor, which we will, talk more about throughout this course. So, another RLA test vocabulary is the paragraph. Now, paragraphs, if you don't know, they are a series of related sentences that are about the same topic, with the same idea, right? So, paragraphs, they are often separated by indents, or a little bit of extra space, on the first line of the paragraph. Now, I will show you an example as I will remind you of what these vocab words are, and show you examples of paragraphs as we, practice that in our reading and each week in our class. Now, paragraphs, they can be as short as even just 3 sentences, but often they are longer. And in your books, in your workbooks for the RLA test, you should see that the paragraphs are also going to be numbered, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And that will help you, to answer the comprehension questions, because it might ask something about specifically paragraph 2. Okay, so it's important to know paragraphs. A heading. Now, headings are found at the top of each passage, and it's similar to the title, right? But it's not exactly the title. So the heading are used to mark different sections of a passage, especially if it's a longer passage. A heading will just be like a subtitle, a smaller title, to show that the next paragraphs will be about that topic. Now, headings, they also contain clues for what the passage is about. So, one thing that I will teach you is how to read headings to understand the paragraphs that come after the headings. This is important because on the GED test, you will find a lot of words that you probably don't know. But it's okay because you can use the heading and the context clues. We're going to show you how to comprehend texts that are maybe even way beyond your English level. You can still understand it, even if you don't know the definition of every word in the text. So, the next two things, skimming and scanning, these are key skills that you'll need to, not just for the RLA test, it will help you a lot in social studies and in science as well. So, the difference between skimming and scanning. Now, skimming is reading a passage quickly to get an overview or a basic understanding of the text. Scanning, on the other hand, is looking through a passage quickly to find keywords that answer a question you might have. So, if I am skimming a paragraph, I'm just reading the paragraph very quickly. Okay, this paragraph is about cats. It's a paragraph about the different types of cats. Okay, boom, I can take all of this information and put it into a smaller sentence, a smaller package. So that's the purpose of skimming. Now, scanning, on the other hand, scanning is looking through a passage quickly to find keywords. So, maybe I have a question. Okay, how many types of cats are there? Okay, so I scan through the paragraph and I find the number. Okay, so we're going to go more in depth about skimming and scanning to help you have clues and understand passages that you'll find on the GED. Okay, now the main idea. So the main idea is going to be the central message of a text or paragraph. Now, main ideas, they might be stated clearly in the text, or they might be implied through other ideas. So, we're going to learn about determining main ideas early on in semester 1. Every paragraph, every text is going to have a central or main idea that you can pull out and use to understand what the text is about. So let's practice. Let's practice finding the main idea, okay? So let's read this together. You can pause. I recommend that you pause the video right here, read it, and then you can go ahead and hit play. So, once you've done that, let's read together. Bicycles are a fun, healthy way to get around town. When you ride a bicycle, the world is your playground. You can race to the streets or wander through the village slowly on a bike. You require no gasoline and are easy to maintain. They allow you to get exercise while you go to work, the market, or a friend's house. So, before you continue, I want you to think, what do you think the main idea is in this paragraph? Now, see if you can think of one word that is the main idea of this paragraph. Do you have the word? Now, if you can think of one word to summarize, to say what this paragraph is, can you think of one sentence that is the main idea of this paragraph? What do you think is the main idea of this passage? I think this first sentence, the topic sentence, is an excellent example of the main idea, right? So the first sentence just says, bicycles are a fun, healthy way to get around town. Okay, that's a pretty central idea. The rest of the sentences after that, they are just expanding. You're just saying more about bicycles. But the main idea is often found in the topic sentence. Okay, so there's a big clue to finding the main idea in some of the passages that you're reading. So, the main idea, it can be found in the first sentence, also known as the topic sentence. Sometimes, we will find passages where the main idea is a bit hidden. But we'll get into that later. Now, I want to talk about tips for studying on your own. Now, one thing I highly recommend is using this resource. It's called a learner's dictionary. You've probably heard of a dictionary, but a learner's dictionary is a little bit different because it's specifically made for students of English who are learning English for the first time. Now, the regular English dictionary, it has very complex words and very difficult high level of English. However, a learner's dictionary will bring that level to a more easy to understand definition. So I highly recommend using the learner's dictionary to help you understand new vocabulary. My other advice is about note-taking. Now, I recommend keeping a separate notebook for each subject. A separate notebook for social studies, a separate one for math, a separate one for science, and a separate one for RLA. This will help you stay organized. And this crucial, it is very important that you stay organized so that we know that you're still progressing and doing well on the exams. Now, I also recommend that you write notes in your own words. So I do not recommend that you copy from the book. If you are copying down, then you're not thinking. Okay? So it's important that students that you think and understand what the slide or the text or the passage, whatever you're reading, you understand what it's saying, and then you write down in your own words what the note is that you want to send. So note-taking skills are very important, and I can also include some more resources for that at the beginning in some of the first weeks of our online course. Okay. Another thing to note down is key vocabulary. So when you encounter a new word, I recommend keeping it either in separate vocabulary notebook or a separate part of your page just to write vocabulary. Later, you can review them in the learner's dictionary and practice making sentences with these words. Okay, students. So today was just the first day of class, so we did not cover a long lesson, just talked about what topics are going to be covered in the RLA exams. The key RLA vocabulary, how to self-study effectively. Think about note-taking, think about new vocabulary, and think about how you want to study for this RLA exams. Thank you, students.